It's so good to talk to my friend Beth Ann Hilton. We were just talking to Valerie Romanoff, and she's down there in the midst
Oh,
of everything that's going on in Florida.
right. I
Yeah,
was just sending her a message yesterday.
yeah. She got hit real hard in the first round, and she had to move out of what's left of her house to go get out of the midst of the storm for her second. And she's there with her daughter and her new granddaughter, and they're just all. It's supposed to be happening in about an hour, so we were just in.
Oh my gosh.
I know it's very strange times. But it's always good to talk to you, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah, we haven't talked in a little while, and the last time I talked to you, I was having a conversation with you about your latest journey.
Right.
Was that a month ago?
It was end of August, all the way through most of September. I was in Pennsylvania, in Amish country, which is where I grew up. And I was there for a family wedding, which was beautiful. And then I was just so surprised and just happily exploring so many of the places that I loved when I grew up, and even some places I had never been to. And then I was just struck by how it has changed a lot since I've lived there as well, in really good ways.
Really? Now you don't hear that very often.
Right, right. I mean, everything's changed about it. The population has changed. Some of the people's mindsets have changed. Some are, kind of coming into the more modern thinking. Like I did see both Mennonite and Amish people in the markets.
Wow.
Just a few, but
Yeah.
but actually mixing, with other people more than they ever had before.
I am.
Um, you know,
I would be amazed. I have never experienced that. Never gone to a place that's got that culture, and
right. Well,
it's got to be like you're walking into another world of sorts, another
I was
time.
gonna I was going to say, not just for my family. I mean, my son has gone every few years, but we really never spent this kind of summertime there. And my husband hasn't been there in 10 years. And my son's girlfriend, who is Colombian American, but has only ever lived in Los Angeles and visited Colombia, came with us, and she thought she was in another country.
Yeah.
We kept having to remind her, no, it's just another state on the other end of the country.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
I
she
mean,
was
it was
blown away.
it's amazing, and this is a strangely busy time of year because you've been a long time Grammy member and been involved in a lot of what is going on, and we know this it is the season, and
Right.
and there's a lot of flurry of activity with all that. I know you help a lot of people with their music in your position.
Mm.
You have quite an interesting history and background. And I guess with your work, actually, you have traveled a lot, but you've been in the music business for how many years?
Oh my gosh, since 1996. I think I
Wow.
joined Rhino Records in 1996,
And
and then to Warner Music Group in
wow.
a couple years after that.
Oh, those are
So
both
yeah,
legendary
right,
groups. I used to play
right.
at Rhino Records, and I loved dealing with Rhino Records. Always, they had so many cool off the wall things they played. And I would at the stations I was working and created that I would play that Rhino Records music. It was
Yeah,
like it was one of the hippest, right? One of the hippest record companies.
right. And they had a great way of curating collections of artists that maybe have been selling off their catalogs, or maybe another company has the catalog but doesn't know what to do with it, and they would curate it, create beautiful box sets, and put it into perspective,
Uh huh.
by having great liner notes and great design
Uh huh.
for people to really understand the cultural impact, say, of Curtis Mayfield, or any of the other greats, that have been coming through since the 60s even. So, they had a really rich history and really wonderful curators and music historians, working with them to do that.
Quite an interesting story, and I of course I've been in music via radio, most of my life. And I look back at it and I think, wow, you don't ever think those times are going to change. I don't think anyone could have predicted music and the music business was going to ever change as drastically as it has. And,
Right.
and so you had to adjust, and you, with your background in music and understanding music promotion and what it takes, you were in a very good position to help people. But everyone that when they decided to go pretty much on their own, a lot of the people that I know and that you know have gone independent, and it seems like, well, okay, I'll do this myself, but there's that huge
Yeah.
but. I mean, someone
Yeah.
like me, even being in the music business all my life, I know that it's two different animals. You know, what you do in creating music and what you do in promoting music are really two different sides of the brain. They're
Right.
different ways of thinking. And for me, I have a very hard time thinking promotion, promotion, promotion. And of course, at this time of year, if you have any friends that are Grammy members, you're seeing all these posts and everything. So there are people who decide, you know, I can't do it myself. I need
Yeah.
help, and they're smart, and they go, okay, who am I going to get to help me? Now, you have the background that you have with a huge history of understanding what it takes to have an album and promote. But even with your huge background in that, a lot of things have changed, and even how you promote since when you were in the business and getting paid for doing it for big companies. What have you seen that you've had to adjust to, and how do you promote and work with the musicians you have now and these days?
Oh my gosh, how can I answer that succinctly? Except to say, I guess I believe at the core of the success for any artist is defining themselves and their branding and, you know, sketching out a strategic path. And that could be, you know, the next 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Of course, you have to be flexible within that. But if, you know, someone like I can help you do that, you know, that's great. And then you have to create the materials and the assets to, you know, represent that you can share with others. And you have to have a great musical team. You know, the music itself has to be ready and good, and, you know, just producing it all properly and getting yourself set up with all of your administrative rights and your royalties and copyrights. I mean, so many artists don't even do all that.
Yeah.
And they're spending, you know, way too much time on social media just promoting themselves the things they're never going to get paid for. So we really try to stress taking a beat, taking a moment, getting all this stuff worked out, you know, leveraging someone like me or you for our relationships so that they don't have to learn it all the hard way. You know, people often just don't know how to work with their team, you know, and sort of let me help me help you.
Yeah.
Because if I can bring a relationship that it might have taken you, you know, year or two to find, you know, that's worth a lot. And so you're not, I guess my biggest advice too is like, you're not just paying for like the article that you get. You're paying for people that have been in the business to help you with those shortcuts and get you going faster on the path that you want to be on. So I have to constantly, I guess to answer your question more directly, I have to constantly update my business model and my service model. And for instance, right now, everyone is interested in playlisting, you know, no matter how much they're unhappy with, you know, the various services. So I'm creating a service that can be used in between album releases. So that you can, you know, boost up your playlisting, you know, based on your catalog and pitching different songs so that it's ready and your numbers are better when you do have a new project. Because when you have a new project coming out, then you don't have the time to do the playlisting, right?
Yeah.
Or to do all the things. So this is going to be sort of a halftime program that people can tap into when they're not so busy with a new record. But to get their numbers up, to get their following up, to establish more relationships.
So important. And I have to say, I've been very lax in understanding and doing all of that. And the thing is, I just kind of get high on creating. I just love creating. I love my new music. I loved her. And I spend very little time understanding the marketing, etc., And so I have to say it goes by the wayside, unfortunately. But right brain, left brain. I do not have anything that's really taking care of the business side. So I know I've been toying with having you work with me for ages. I have 15 albums, and
I know you have so much.
I just keep creating, and I never think of marketing. So, I mean, I'm sharing this because I know there are other people out there that really are so talented and so good, and I think it's happened, maybe slowly, but in some ways, this change of all of a sudden doing the independents doing everything on their own is a wave that kind of took everyone by storm, and you see a lot of people doing it. But then if you look at the numbers and how many people really get played on the places that really will make a difference, it's kind of shocking, isn't it, to you?
Yeah, it really is. Terrestrial radio is still very expensive to break through in the U.S. So we do look, we put the music out everywhere, but then we look for pockets of, where it's picking up. Like we have Sharon Leah band that we're working with, and we were surprised all of a sudden they have this great interest in Finland.
Really?
So okay, we'll lean into Finland, and if that's the possible beginning of a tour or a concert in Europe, then why not, right? So we'll watch and develop that. But then they also started to pick up in their hometown in Philly. It just started, it takes a little longer to impact in the U.S., but definitely start local and let it grow out. Don't, expect to start at a high level and work down. So, people have to think about their niches and where they can get their foothold, and then build up and let the story build, and keep doing things, that are newsworthy, whether it's another show or tapping into all the tools that you can in Pandora, in Spotify, hooking up your bands in town, or any of the other apps that you can hook into those platforms to help you promote to people that are already listening to you there. So there are smart tools that you can use for free, and then there are some paid tools too.
Well, such great advice, really, truly, and in a way, I guess, overwhelming because it just makes me realize more why I can't do all of that. But yeah, I mean, even just when you get down to the promotional of the importance of the visuals, if you're going to post things that on sites that want the visuals, you got to have the good visuals to post on, and right. I see so much that is overwhelming to a lot of people. And truthfully, by the time you get into some of those things, you can spend a lot of money, and you don't realize how much it can add up to till you start trying to do that. You're working with a couple of artists for this year, aren't you? Who are you working with this year?
Right. Well, I've been working with Ed Basil. He's a wonderful pianist. His music is very sorry, that's not the right word. Minimalistic, yet melodic, and a little bit haunting and poignant, pristinely recorded at Abbey Road. So he's at Ed Basil Piano on most of the different platforms and his website. And then he is going to be taking me up to Skywalker Ranch in a couple weeks.
Oh, boy.
We're going to be recording a new album up there on the Skywalker Ranch at Skywalker Sound.
You're going to take a lot of pictures, aren't you?
We're not allowed to take pictures outside at the ranch, but we will be staying in that ranch house. So I will try to describe it in words as well as I can.
It's such a legendary place, isn't it?
Legendary. I mean, we had a short visit to scout earlier this year, and you see the cattle that George Lucas is grazing around here and there. You know, he has these high-end cattle. He's growing grapes and making all his products. And yeah, there's a main house, like a ranch house, and then there's other little restaurants scattered throughout.
Really?
You know, like you're just out walking through these mountains in Northern California.
Well, I used to live near
stunning.
there, and I'd go down, but I didn't get into the property. But there are these rather interesting restaurants that are down there,
Yeah.
and it's you feel like you're really almost in another world when you're. It's just so different when you're in that area, you know. But it's been a while since I've been there, so that's
Right. We're going. I wanted to just mention we're going Wednesday night to a really cool hot spot called Merchant Roots. And it's a small restaurant that is all farm to table and yet very visual, very decorative. Like you never know what they're going to have. And they just do these super creative things with
wow.
food and the presentation.
Now, where is that exactly?
I don't know.
Okay.
I know that it's somewhere between San Francisco and the Skywalker Ranch. So
Wow.
I don't know if it's closer to the ranch.
And what's the
than
name
city,
again?
But I think it's close to the city.
Because I want to be able to have people check it out. What was the name of the place again?
Yeah. Merchant Roots.
Merchant Roots. You know, it's funny. I was just talking to a friend who goes for work, lives in the L.A. area, who's a doctor, but he goes to San Francisco often. And I was going to have him on my show, but he says, I can't even tell you how San Francisco has changed. He says, I wouldn't recommend anyone. I was like, what? He says, no. He says, it's gotten really bad, and I don't recommend. He said, go around San Francisco, go above San Francisco. He says, don't spend much time in San Francisco. He says, it's kind of gotten out of control there, and it's not necessarily a pleasant place like it used to be, which shocked me. You know, I mean, it's like, really? Wow, okay.
Yeah, there is some really bad homelessness and stuff, but then there are areas that are still great. So I don't know my way around well enough to tell you what's what, but I think Merchant Roots is in the city, and I know they recently moved to a bigger place. So I'm afraid I can't tell you exactly where it is, but I think, maybe in the Mission. Not sure.
So you're going when are you going to that wonderful adventure of doing and that recording?
The 23rd, so I'll fly to Oakland, then we'll do the dinner, then we go to the ranch for 2 days, and we'll leave on the third day. And, you know, while we're there, we'll do the recording, but we also like to all sit around and help name the songs as they come to life. And we have a lot of fun with it, with his team. And then we shoot content. We shoot an interview while we're there,
good.
You know, by the piano, on the piano bench, and you know, just really build up lots of content while you're in the mode.
Absolutely smart. Absolutely. It's so valuable. And you don't often get that opportunity, you know?
With Sharon, we had so much fun. When I was in Pennsylvania, I drove over to her. It was about an hour outside of Philly to her house. And we just went throughout her house. She has sets in her house that look like you're on a TV set.
Oh, my gosh.
We did interviews. We did a photo shoot in the field behind her house. There's so much you can do, you know, and you can just grab so much content in just an afternoon that you'll have for months, you know.
So you have that one now. You're working with one other group, right?
Oh, you know, several. I'm working with Shannon Kay, and she is a young lady who has just such a range of talent with her voice. She and her father have done a duet, which they don't often do. He is a famous singer, and he's, you know, really well known in India as one of the top singers for films in Bollywood, Kumar Sanu. And they did a song that's up for Best Pop Duo Performance, and it's called 9 to 5. And she and her sister wrote it, and it's all about, you know, being in the 9 to 5 slog, and, you know, how do you set yourself free?
Wow.
And he's featured on that. And it was produced by Lugo, who's a Latin American Grammy winner. And so it's kind of an interesting, dancey, fun, upbeat tune that, we didn't know where it would land, but it ended up in Best Pop Duo/Group.
There were a lot of things that did move. My entry did get moved. I've talked about three people who have had their submissions, and I thought this year they were going to try to keep it in the submission area where you entered, but I've talked to 3 people who've had their entries moved to different categories. So, and we're in the midst of it. You know what it's like with all the phone calls and all the talks and all the things, and it's hard to keep track of. But one thing does always impress me, and that is how many people are creating content. And this is at a time where there's not a lot of money being made by people with their music. But my gosh, aren't you blown away by how much is out there?
It is. It's amazing. There are, just like almost 181, I think, entries just in New Age ambient and chant.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how many entries there are for Best Album or some of the huge categories.
Oh, absolutely.
That are a lot more mainstream.
Yeah.
But it's very encouraging. There are a lot of creative people in this country and across the world that are, creating beauty. And I wish that we would all take more time to focus on that. Turn off the news, turn on music. That's what I said.
Well, and think of it. It is so inspiring. And there's just so many beautiful people they're giving their heart and soul and time to create this wonderful work. And it's just such a gift. It really is. And you are such a gift. How do people reach you?
I have a website, just the letter B, company all spelled out.com. THEBCOMPANY.com. And there's contact forms on the contact page, or, I use that same, the B Company, on Facebook, on all the platforms. I'm out there, just constantly posting and sharing and keeping up with all the tools and tricks,
You are a wonderful guide and helpmate to people who don't know how to navigate some of the rather confusing territory it is in promoting your music. And I highly recommend you. Knowing you for years, it's always a pleasure talking to you. And
Thank you, Cindy.
and I'm glad you were able to experience Amish country and all the beautiful stuff that happens with the trip. And I know it's busy now, but we'll stay in touch, and who knows where we'll see each other next. Maybe at the Grammys. I don't know. But
I wod love to head your way.
Oh, you should.
Sooner than later.
You absolutely should. Guaranteed you should come here. Well, big gratitude to you, my friend. It's always great talking to you. I always get inspired and I always learn things. So it's always a treat being able to talk to you.
Anything I can do, you don't have to pay me for advice. I'm happy to help. My favorite part of it is, getting people established. I don't think I'd work with superstars if I had them. I like working with, people that are just getting up and doing it and growing.
People who love creative, wonderful projects. Absolutely. Well, thank you, my friend. God bless, and you take care.
You too.
A big aloha.
Aloha.